My name is Rachel Carter. I'm 32 years old. And 3 weeks ago, I stood in front of 30 people at my parents' 40th wedding anniversary party and watched my father announce that the whole family was going to Hawaii, except me, because someone needed to stay behind and babysit my sister's kids. And in that single moment, surrounded by witnesses who all pretended not to see my humiliation, I realized that I had never been family to them. I had only ever been free labor. But what they didn't know was that I had a secret, something I'd been building in the shadows for 3 years. And that night, standing there with a dirty plate in my hands, while everyone looked away, I decided it was finally time to walk away from everything and everyone I'd ever known. Before I tell you what that secret was, and how it changed my entire life, I need you to understand something. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that like button right now and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because what I'm about to share with you is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about family loyalty and sacrifice. Let me take you back to the beginning so you understand exactly how I ended up in this situation. The Carter family lives in a beautiful white colonial house in the suburbs of Boston. 4 bedrooms, 2-car garage, perfectly manicured lawn that meets every single HOA requirement. The kind of house that screams success to anyone who drives past. My father, Thomas Carter, retired 3 years ago after spending 40 years as a branch manager at a regional bank. And my mother, Catherine, has never worked a paid job in her entire life. But she'll tell anyone who listens that she's busier than any CEO, chairing church committees, organizing charity events, and obsessively maintaining what she calls our family's reputation in the community. Then there's my younger sister, Amanda, who's 29. Married to a corporate attorney named Brandon, whose salary and law firm she mentions in literally every conversation. They have 2 kids, a 6-year-old boy named Lucas and a 4-year-old girl named Emma, plus a brand new Audi SUV that always gets the premium parking spot in our parents' driveway. Meanwhile, my 10-year-old Toyota gets banished to the street every single time I visit. Rachel, move your car, my mother would say without even looking at me. Brandon's bringing the Audi, and we can't have your old thing blocking the view from the street. I never questioned it. I just moved my car. And that's the thing about being the invisible child in your family. You stop noticing all the small ways they've already decided you don't matter. The better parking spot, the nicer seat at dinner, the way your mother introduces your sister by mentioning her husband's impressive job title while you're just Rachel. She helps out sometimes. I work as a freelance bookkeeper, mostly remote clients, flexible schedule, modest income, nothing that impresses anyone by Carter family standards. But here's what they never knew, what I never told a single one of them. 3 years ago, I started something else. Something that had nothing to do with spreadsheets and tax returns. Something that was entirely mine, and it was about to change everything. Let me paint you a picture of what helping out actually means in the Carter family. Every Thanksgiving, I arrive at 6 in the morning to start preparing the turkey. I set the table with my mother's expensive Wedgwood china, the set I'm allowed to wash but never allowed to use for myself. I arrange the flowers, polish the silverware, coordinate the timing of 7 different side dishes so everything comes out perfectly. Amanda arrives at noon wearing designer clothes, kisses everyone hello, and sits down to be served like royalty. Christmas is the exact same routine, except I also have to wrap all the presents my mother bought because her arthritis is acting up. Which is funny because her arthritis never seems to bother her when she's playing bridge with her friends 3 times a week. Birthday parties for my niece and nephew. I'm the entertainment coordinator, the cleanup crew, and the emergency babysitter all rolled into one. Last year I spent 9 hours running Lucas's superhero themed party while Amanda got a spa treatment because she desperately needed a break from her stressful life. The one time, just one time, I asked if maybe I could skip a family event because I had an important deadline for a client. My mother's voice went ice cold. Family comes first, Rachel. We all make sacrifices for each other. Except I seem to be the only person in the family who was ever actually making any sacrifices. The breaking point started coming in these small moments that added up over time. Like the Christmas I received my gift from Amanda. It was a kitchen apron with "World's Best Aunt" written across it in sparkly gold letters. She smiled like she'd given me something so thoughtful and meaningful, and I wore that apron. I wore it every single time I came over to cook and clean and babysit because that's what good aunts do, right? Do you want to know when I finally realized the truth? It hit me on a random Tuesday night, while I was scrubbing my mother's expensive cookware after another family dinner, where I'd spent 4 hours cooking for everyone. I stood there with my hands in soapy water and suddenly realized I couldn't remember the last time anyone had invited me somewhere without expecting me to work. I couldn't remember the last time someone had asked me how I was doing, really doing, not just as a prelude to asking me for another favor. 3 years ago, my life completely fell apart in a different way. I'd been dating a man named Chris for almost 5 years. We talked about marriage, about buying a house together, about having kids, about building a future, and then one evening he sat me down and said words that I will never, ever forget. Rachel, I love you, I do. But I don't think I'm in love with you anymore. You're just always there, like furniture, like wallpaper. You're just there. Just there. Like I was an object in his life instead of a person. Like I was something he'd stopped noticing a long time ago. And after he left, I wandered around the city for hours, numb and lost, until I found myself standing in front of a pawn shop downtown. I don't know why I went inside. Maybe I was looking for something to fill the emptiness. And that's when I saw it sitting in the display case, a Canon DSLR camera, used but well maintained. Price tag said $200. I bought it with money I probably should have saved. I told absolutely no one about it. Not my family, not my friends, no one. And that camera became my secret world. I started photographing things that most people walk right past without seeing. Elderly women waiting alone at bus stops. Tired faces of overnight janitors cleaning office buildings. Weathered hands of street vendors. Construction workers on their lunch breaks. People that society looks right through. The same way my family had been looking right through me my entire life. I called the photo series Unseen Souls. I created an anonymous Instagram account with no face. No real name, just the photographs and short captions about each person's story. And over 3 years, something incredible happened. I gathered 14,000 followers. People who saw what I saw. People who understood what it meant to be invisible. And I kept that camera wrapped in a silk scarf at the very back of my closet like it was made of gold. Because it was the only thing I'd ever done just for myself. 3 weeks before my parents' anniversary party, I got an email that I almost deleted thinking it was spam. It was from a gallery in Santa Barbara, California, Ocean View Art Gallery. The director said she'd discovered my Instagram account and wanted to discuss featuring my work in an upcoming exhibition. I stared at that email for 25 minutes with my hands literally shaking. But I didn't reply right away because good things like this didn't happen to people like me. There's one person in my family who actually sees me as a real human being. Her name is Claire and she's my mother's younger sister. My Aunt Claire is what my mother calls the family embarrassment. She never got married. She followed her passion for pottery and painting instead of getting what my mother calls a real job. 20 years ago, she moved to a small coastal town in Northern California and opened an art studio and cafe. My mother hasn't really forgiven her for that choice. Claire wasted her potential, my mother loves to say. She could have had a respectable life, but she chose to play with clay and watercolors. What I never told my mother is that I've been calling Aunt Claire every Sunday night for the past 8 years. Those calls kept me sane. And it was Aunt Claire who first saw my photographs. I sent her just one image testing the waters, and her response made me cry. Rachel, this is extraordinary. You have real talent, this is a gift. Nobody had ever called anything I did extraordinary. She encouraged me to keep shooting, to keep posting, to keep building this thing that was mine. And 3 weeks before my parents' anniversary, she said something that changed the trajectory of my entire life. Rachel, I hope you're not upset, but I sent your Instagram link to someone I know, a gallery director in Santa Barbara named Victoria Chen. She's been looking for emerging photographers. I nearly dropped my phone. Aunt Claire, that's the gallery that just emailed me. I know, sweetie. She told me she wants to talk to you about a solo exhibition, your own show. Your name on the wall. She thinks your work could really resonate with people. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. But that's real, that's an actual career. That's not just a hobby anymore. Yes, it is. Her voice was gentle but absolutely firm. And you deserve this, Rachel. You don't need anyone's permission to pursue what you love. I learned that lesson way too late in life. You don't have to make the same mistake I did. That night I finally replied to Victoria Chen's email. And that brings me to the night that destroyed everything and set me free at the same time. My parents' 40th wedding anniversary. A milestone that, according to my mother, deserved a celebration worthy of royalty, which meant 40 guests. A catered menu that I would of course assist with to save money. and an entire evening dedicated to celebrating the Carter family's 40 years of perfect marriage. The preparation started an entire week before the event. I took 4 days off from my bookkeeping work to help set everything up. I ordered flowers, white roses, and peonies exactly to my mother's specifications. I hand wrote 70 place cards in the calligraphy style she insisted upon. I coordinated with the caterer. I pressed all the table linens. I polished the crystal glasses that had been a wedding gift 4 decades ago. On the day of the party, I arrived at 6:30 in the morning wearing jeans and an old t-shirt, because there was absolutely no point in dressing up when I'd be working in the kitchen for the next 12 hours. By 7 o'clock that evening, the house looked absolutely perfect, candles glowing on every surface. The dining area extended into the living room with tables set for 40 people using my mother's finest china and silver. I'd changed into a simple navy dress, nothing fancy. Nothing that would draw any attention to myself. Rachel, my mother's voice stopped me in the hallway. She looked me up and down with that critical expression I knew so well. Is that what you're wearing tonight? It's navy. I thought it was appropriate for an anniversary party. It's fine, I suppose. Just make sure you stay in the background. Tonight is about your father and me, not about you. I nodded like I always did. I always nodded. I always agreed. I always made myself smaller. Guests started arriving at 7:30, men in blazers, women in cocktail dresses, old colleagues, church friends, neighbors with their perfectly maintained facades. 40 people who thought they knew the Carter family inside and out. None of them actually knew me at all, and in just a few hours that wouldn't matter anymore. Amanda arrived at 7:45, perfectly timed for maximum dramatic impact. She swept through the front door in a red designer dress. Diane von Furstenberg, she announced to anyone within earshot. Brandon followed behind her in an expensive charcoal suit. And their 2 kids were dressed like they'd stepped out of a luxury catalog. My mother rushed to embrace them, gushing about how stunning Amanda looked, how handsome Brandon was, how absolutely precious the grandchildren were. I watched from the kitchen doorway holding a tray of appetizers. Everyone, you remember my daughter Amanda and her husband Brandon. My mother announced to the entire room, Brandon just made partner at Morrison and Blackwell last year. We're so incredibly proud of them. Applause, smiles. Congratulations flowing from every direction. My mother never mentioned that I'd been doing Brandon's personal taxes for 4 years completely free of charge, naturally. I circulated through the party with appetizers, refilled wine glasses, answered polite questions from guests who didn't quite recognize me. Are you with the catering company? One woman asked while reaching for a crab cake. Before I could even answer, my mother appeared out of nowhere. Oh, that's Rachel, my other daughter. She's helping out tonight. The woman smiled politely and immediately turned away to talk to someone more interesting. My mother didn't even notice. She never noticed. At one point, Brandon approached me carrying Emma, who was squirming in his arms while Lucas tugged insistently at his jacket. Hey, can you take them? He said, not asked. Just stated it like a fact. Amanda and I need to circulate and network. Not would you mind, not please, not thank you, just can you take them? Like he was handing off luggage at an airport. I took them. I fed both kids dinner in the kitchen away from the adult party. I wiped Emma's face when she spilled juice all over her dress. I told Lucas 4 different stories to keep him from running into the living room and disrupting the carefully orchestrated event. When I finally emerged an hour later, dessert was already being served. I hadn't eaten a single thing all day. Nobody had thought to save me a plate. Nobody had even noticed I was gone. The announcement came at 9:15, right after my mother's homemade tiramisu had been served to rave reviews. My father stood up, tapping his champagne glass with a silver fork. The entire room fell into expectant silence. 40 faces turned toward him with anticipating smiles. Catherine, and I want to thank every one of you for being here tonight. He began, his voice warm with rehearsed charm. 40 years of marriage. 4 decades of building this family, this life, this home that we're all so proud of. My mother beamed beside him like she'd won an award. Amanda reached over and grabbed Brandon's hand in that performative way she had. I stood near the kitchen doorway, still holding a stack of dirty dessert plates. And to celebrate this incredible milestone, my father continued, building the suspense, we have a very special surprise announcement to share with all of you tonight. He paused for dramatic effect. My mother's eyes were practically sparkling with excitement. Next week, we're taking the entire family to Hawaii. 1 full week at the Four Seasons Resort in Maui, a second celebration, just the Carters, quality family time in paradise. The room absolutely erupted. How wonderful. What an incredible gift. You two deserve it so much. Amanda actually squealed out loud. Dad, that's amazing. The kids are going to absolutely love it. Oh my god, this is perfect. I felt something lift in my chest, something that felt dangerously close to hope, the entire family. That meant me too. For once I wouldn't be cooking or cleaning or babysitting. For once I'd actually be included in something. I'd actually be part of the family. I stepped forward from my position near the kitchen, allowing myself a small, genuine smile. That sounds absolutely incredible. What time is our flight? I need to request time off from my clients. The question hung in the air like a grenade. My father's expression shifted. His smile faltered. He glanced quickly at my mother and something passed between them. A look I'd seen 10,000 times but never really understood until that precise moment. Rachel, he said slowly, carefully, like he was explaining something to a child. You don't need to know the flight time, sweetie. The room went quiet, not the comfortable silence of anticipation, but the tense, awful quiet of something going terribly wrong. I don't understand, I heard myself say, my voice sounding strange and far away. My father cleared his throat. Because you're not going to Hawaii with us, Rachel. 40 pairs of eyes. That's how many people watched my father tell me I wasn't part of the family vacation. 40 witnesses to the moment my family told me I wasn't really family at all. Someone needs to stay behind, my mother added. As if this were the most logical, reasonable thing in the world. Amanda and Brandon need a real vacation. They work so incredibly hard. That means you'll need to watch Lucas and Emma for the week. But I started to say, Rachel, honestly, my mother's tone sharpened like a knife. You don't have anything important going on. Amanda has a very demanding life. She deserves a proper break. You have flexibility. You can work from anywhere. It's just 1 week. It's not that big of a deal. Megan works hard. Amanda works hard. Amanda, who hadn't held an actual job since Lucas was born 5 years ago. Amanda, who had a full-time nanny 3 days a week and still complained constantly about being exhausted. It's just a week, Rachel. Brandon added without even bothering to look at me. The kids love spending time with you. You're so good with them. I stood there in my plain navy dress holding dirty plates while 40 people watched me be dismissed, erased, removed from my own family. Some of them looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Most of them just looked away, pretending they hadn't witnessed anything. One woman, I didn't even know her name, leaned toward her husband and whispered something. I was close enough to catch the words. Poor thing, she must be so used to this by now. The champagne glass in my hand started to tremble. I carefully set down the plates, set down the glass, because I didn't trust myself not to drop them or throw them. Of course, I heard myself say, I understand completely, I'll take care of everything. I smiled, that same smile I'd been wearing for 32 years, the smile of the person who helps out, who doesn't complain, who is always just there. But something inside me had finally cracked, not broken, cracked. Like a fault line shifting deep underground right before an earthquake. I excused myself to the kitchen. I leaned against the cold counter and closed my eyes. And for the first time in my entire life, I started making a completely different kind of plan. The party continued without me. Of course it did. Why wouldn't it? I stayed in the kitchen mechanically washing dishes, while laughter and celebration drifted in from the other room. At some point Amanda appeared, her red dress swishing against the doorframe. Rachel, don't be upset, she said, reaching for my arm like we were close. You know how it is. Brandon and I desperately need this time together. His job is so stressful. The kids are so demanding. I kept washing. I didn't look at her. I understand. Besides, you're so naturally good with Lucas and Emma. They'll barely even notice we're gone. They love you so much. I rinsed a champagne glass, placed it carefully in the drying rack, said absolutely nothing. Amanda sighed in that way she always did when she thought I was being difficult or emotional. Look, it's just 1 week and you don't have like a boyfriend or anything tying you down. Your schedule is super flexible. You can work from literally anywhere. Flexible. That word again, as if my time had zero value because I'd chosen how to spend it. As if my work didn't matter because it wasn't in a fancy office building. Brandon made a detailed list. She continued, pulling out her phone to show me their schedules, food preferences, Emma's allergies. Lucas might need eardrops. There's this new thing with his ear. I'll text you absolutely everything you need to know. She didn't ask if I was willing. She didn't ask if I had other plans. She just assumed. She always assumed. That's when Brandon appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. All sorted then. Perfect. We're heading out early tomorrow to start packing. Amanda, your mother wants family photos before we leave. They disappeared before I could respond. Not that I would have, not that I ever did. But standing there alone in my mother's kitchen, staring at the detailed instruction list Amanda had just texted me, a single crystal, clear thought formed in my mind. They don't see me as family, they see me as unpaid staff, and staff has every right to resign. It was almost midnight when I found the emails. The last guests had finally left. My parents had gone to bed exhausted from accepting 40 years' worth of congratulations and praise. I was alone in the living room folding table linens when I realized I needed to send an urgent file to a client whose deadline I'd pushed back for this party. My laptop was at home, my mother's laptop was sitting on the kitchen counter. She won't mind, I told myself. She's borrowed my things 100 times without asking. I opened the laptop, Safari was already running, and there it was, my mother's Gmail account, still logged in. I should have closed it immediately. I should have minded my own business, but I saw my name in the subject line of a recent email thread, Hawaii arrangements, Rachel situation. My finger hovered over the trackpad. I knew I shouldn't look, I knew whatever I found would hurt, I clicked anyway. The email thread was between my mother and Amanda, starting from a week before the anniversary party. From Catherine Carter to Amanda Morrison, we'll keep Rachel home to watch the kids. She doesn't have anything important going on anyway. Brandon was absolutely right. It's like having free help. She should honestly be grateful we give her something useful to do with her time. And Amanda's reply, totally agree, Mom. She'll probably feel useful for once. It's kind of sad, honestly, but hey, at least it works out perfectly for us. We get a real vacation, and she gets to feel needed. Win-win. I read those words 3 times to make absolutely sure I understood them correctly. Free help. She should be grateful. Kind of sad. It's kind of sad. I took screenshots. I emailed them to myself. I deleted my sent email from the folder. I cleared the entire browser history. Then I sat alone in my mother's dark kitchen in the house where I'd grown up and finally allowed myself to understand exactly what I was to these people. I drove home at 1:30 in the morning through completely empty streets. My apartment was small. A one-bedroom in a building that hadn't been updated since the 1990s, beige carpet, white walls, secondhand furniture. My mother had called it depressing the one and only time she'd visited. But it was mine, the only space in the world where I could actually breathe. I sat in the darkness for a long time just staring at my phone. The email from Victoria Chen glowed on the screen, the gallery director from Santa Barbara. We'd exchanged several messages about a potential meeting. She wanted to see my complete portfolio in person. She was genuinely excited about my Unseen Souls series. She thought it had real commercial and artistic potential. I could go, I could actually leave, I could choose myself for once in my life. I picked up my phone and called the only person in the world who would truly understand what I was about to do. Aunt Claire answered on the second ring, even though it was nearly 2 in the morning. Rachel, what's wrong, honey, what happened? I told her absolutely everything, the announcement, the public humiliation, the emails I'd found. My voice cracked exactly once when I read her the words free help out loud. When I finished, there was this long, heavy silence on the line. Then Aunt Claire said something I will remember for the rest of my life. Rachel, listen to me. I have a spare bedroom above my studio. I actually need help with the morning cafe shift anyway. And that gallery Victoria mentioned. It's only 25 minutes from where I live. Aunt Claire, I can't just leave everything. Yes, Rachel, you absolutely can. You can leave. You can choose yourself for once. The only person stopping you from having the life you deserve is you. I hung up the phone at 2:15 in the morning. By 6:30 I'd started packing, 3 large suitcases, all my camera equipment, my laptop, the silk scarf that had protected my Canon for 3 years. I left behind that world's best aunt apron. I left it folded on my kitchen counter like a resignation letter. For the first time in 32 years I was choosing myself. I was choosing my own life, my own dreams, my own future. If you've made it this far in the story, I want to ask you something important. Have you ever had to choose between your family and yourself? Have you ever stood at that crossroads where staying meant losing who you really are? Tell me in the comments what you would do. Would you stay and endure it, or would you walk away? And if this story is hitting home for you, if it matters to you, please hit that like button. It really helps. Now let me tell you what happened when I told them I was leaving. 2 days before my family's Hawaii trip, I drove to my parents' house one final time. My mother was in the living room coordinating vacation outfits. Amanda sat on the couch scrolling through resort reviews on her phone. Brandon was upstairs somewhere, probably on a work call. My father was reading the newspaper in his leather armchair the way he always did, physically present but mentally checked out. I need to tell you all something important, I said from the doorway, my voice surprisingly steady. My mother barely glanced up from her clothing piles. If this is about the children's schedule, Amanda already sent you all the details. It's not about that, I steadied myself. Took a deep breath. I'm not watching the kids, I won't be available that week or any week after. That got everyone's attention. Amanda's head snapped up. My mother's hands froze mid-fold. What do you mean you won't be available? My mother asked, her voice sharp. I have a professional opportunity in California. I'm leaving tomorrow morning, I'm moving there actually. This isn't temporary, California. My father finally lowered his newspaper. What kind of professional opportunity are you talking about? It's a gallery exhibition. Something I've been working toward. Something that's actually important to me. I didn't owe them the details. I didn't owe them anything anymore. Amanda's face twisted into this expression of disbelief. Rachel, you cannot be serious right now. I'm counting on you. We planned this entire trip around you being here. You planned this trip around me without ever asking me. I said quietly but firmly. I'm not canceling my life because you all assumed I didn't have one. The silence was absolutely deafening. Then my mother stood up, her voice going ice cold. This is incredibly selfish, Rachel, unbelievably selfish. Amanda needs your help, she needs support. Family comes first, that's what we do, we sacrifice for each other. Family comes first, I repeated slowly, except when it came to inviting me to Hawaii. Right then, family didn't include me at all. Her mouth opened, then closed. For maybe the first time in her entire life, Catherine Carter had absolutely nothing to say. My father cleared his throat in that uncomfortable way he had. Rachel, if you leave like this, if you just walk away from your responsibilities, don't expect us to welcome you back with open arms when this little adventure falls apart. I understand, I said, and for the first time in my life I actually meant it. I completely understand, and I'm still leaving. The next 24 hours were an absolute masterclass in emotional manipulation. My mother called my phone 8 times, each voicemail more dramatic and guilt-laden than the last. You're tearing this family apart, Rachel. I hope you can live with that. Your father is absolutely devastated. He barely touched his dinner. Amanda cried for hours. The children keep asking where Aunt Rachel is going. Amanda took a different approach, weaponized vulnerability. Wendy, I don't understand why you're doing this to me. To us, I'm your sister. Don't you care about this family at all? Don't you care about Lucas and Emma? They love you so much and you're just abandoning them. And then came the text message that almost broke through my resolve. You're going to end up completely alone, Rachel. Just like Aunt Claire. Is that really what you want for your life? Sad and alone. I stared at that message for a long time, just like Aunt Claire. They meant it as an insult. They meant it to scare me into submission. But Aunt Claire had her own business, her own art, her own life built entirely on her own terms. Aunt Claire was genuinely happy. Maybe ending up like Aunt Claire wasn't a threat at all. Maybe it was actually a promise of something better. I turned off my phone completely. The last thing I did before leaving Boston was walk through my empty apartment one final time, 3 suitcases packed and waiting by the door. Everything else would stay behind. The second-hand furniture, the beige carpet, the life I'd been living for everyone else. I taped my apartment key to an envelope and slid it under my landlord's door. Month-to-month lease, paid through the end of the month, clean break, no looking back. I loaded my car as the sun came up, my 10-year-old Toyota, reliable and paid off. The same car my mother had been embarrassed by for years. It was about to carry me 3,000 miles to a completely new life. I didn't look back as I pulled away from the curb. I didn't let myself look back. The drive from Boston to Northern California takes about 46 hours if you really push it. I didn't push it. I took 6 days. Stopping at roadside motels, eating at small-town diners where absolutely nobody knew my name or my history. Somewhere in Nebraska, I pulled over at a rest stop and just sat there watching the sunset paint the prairie in these incredible shades of gold and amber and pink. I photographed it, my first shot as a completely free woman, and I started crying, not from sadness but from this overwhelming sense of relief and possibility. On the 3rd day, my phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. I'd turned it back on to check GPS directions. Mom says if you're not home when we get back from Hawaii, you're completely dead to her. You'll be cut off from this family forever. I read it once, twice. Then I deleted it without responding. She'd been treating me like I was dead for years anyway. At least now I'd be alive somewhere else. On the 5th day, I called Aunt Claire from a gas station somewhere in Arizona. I'm about 7 hours away, I said, my voice shaking slightly. Your room is ready, sweetie. Fresh sheets, ocean view from the window, and Victoria wants to meet you tomorrow afternoon if you're up for it. She's really excited. My stomach flipped. Tomorrow, that's so fast. That's so soon. Rachel, her voice was warm and certain. You've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. It's not fast, it's not soon, it's finally happening. When I crossed the California state line, something fundamental shifted inside me. The Pacific Ocean appeared on my left, vast and endless and impossibly blue. I rolled down my window and breathed in salt air for the first time in my life. I cried again, not from fear this time but from hope. At 8 o'clock in the evening on the sixth day, I pulled into the driveway of Seaside Arts, Aunt Claire's combination cafe and pottery studio. She was waiting on the front porch with her arms already open. Welcome home, Rachel, she said. And for the first time in 32 years, somewhere actually felt like home. The town was like something out of a painting, small cottages with colorful gardens, art galleries on every corner, ocean mist rolling through the streets. The whole place felt magical. Aunt Claire's cafe sat on a quiet street just 3 blocks from the beach, Seaside Arts in hand, painted letters, turquoise shutters, window boxes overflowing with purple and pink flowers. The pottery studio took up the back half of the building, where she taught classes and sold her work to tourists and locals. My room was upstairs, small but bright and perfect, a bed with a white quilt, a desk by the window, and a view of the Pacific Ocean that literally took my breath away. You'll work the morning shift if you're willing, Aunt Claire explained over dinner that first night, 6 in the morning until noon. After that, your time is completely yours to do whatever you want. I don't know how to thank you for this. For giving me this chance, she waved her hand. Don't thank me, Rachel. Just build something beautiful, create something meaningful. That's payment enough. The next morning I woke before dawn. I tied on a simple canvas apron and learned how to make pour over coffee the way Aunt Claire's customers liked it. Customers came and went throughout the morning. Locals who greeted Claire by name, tourists charmed by the homemade scones and the ocean view. I took orders, wiped down tables, made small talk with strangers who had absolutely no idea I'd just run away from my entire life. By noon I'd made $42 in tips. I'd smiled more genuinely than I had in months. And at 2 o'clock that afternoon I had an appointment that could change everything. I showered, changed into my nicest dress, and walked 4 blocks to meet Victoria Chen at Ocean View Art Gallery. Victoria looked nothing like I'd imagined. I'd pictured someone intimidating. Someone in all black with an attitude. Instead, the woman who greeted me was warm and enthusiastic, probably in her 50s, with kind eyes and a genuine smile. Rachel Carter, she said, shaking my hand firmly. Claire has told me so much about you, but honestly, your work speaks for itself. It's extraordinary. She led me through the gallery, white walls, perfect natural lighting, photographs and paintings displayed with such care and precision. This was a serious place, a place where art really mattered. I've spent hours looking through your Unseen Souls series, Victoria continued. There's a truth in those images, an empathy that most photographers spend their entire careers trying to capture and never quite achieve. I didn't know what to say. I'd never heard anyone describe my work like that. This one, she stopped in front of a large monitor displaying my portfolio. On the screen was a photograph I'd taken 18 months ago. An elderly woman sitting alone on a bus bench. Her face was weathered and beautiful, full of quiet dignity and patience. This image is what made me reach out to you. There's something in her eyes, wisdom maybe, or resignation, or both. It's absolutely heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time. She'd been waiting for a bus that was running 45 minutes late, I said quietly. Nobody stopped to check if she was okay. Nobody offered to help. She just waited with this incredible patience. Victoria nodded slowly. You see people, Rachel. Really see them. You see the humanity in faces that society has learned to look past. That's a genuine gift, and gifts like that need to be shared. She turned to face me directly and spoke the words that would change my life. I'd like to offer you a solo exhibition. 18 pieces, opening night in 8 weeks. We'll cover all printing costs, professional framing, installation, marketing, everything. You'll keep 60% of all sales. The gallery retains 40% as standard commission. I just stood there trying to process what she'd just said, trying to make it feel real. I signed the contract 3 days later, sitting at Victoria's desk with afternoon sunlight streaming through the gallery windows. The document was simple and straightforward. 18 photographs, opening night scheduled for late September. Oceanview Gallery would handle all production costs, printing, framing, installation, promotional materials. I would receive 60% of all sales revenue, the gallery would retain 40%. Standard industry terms, Victoria assured me, completely fair. But as I read through the pages, my hands started shaking uncontrollably. Take your time, Rachel. This is a big step. There's no pressure. It wasn't the business terms that overwhelmed me. It was seeing my name printed in official legal type, artist Rachel Carter. A real contract recognizing that my work had actual value. That I had value. I thought about all the times I'd done my family's accounting for free, all the parties I'd organized without recognition, all the hours spent caring for children who would grow up never knowing what I'd sacrificed. Not once had my name appeared on anything that celebrated my contribution. Not once had anyone acknowledged what I gave, until now, the exhibition title, Victoria said, pointing to a line near the bottom. I'd like your approval on this. We're proposing Unseen Souls, Portraits of the Invisible. Unseen Souls, I whispered. It's absolutely perfect. I signed my name on the contract line, my hand barely steady. Victoria countersigned as witness. Her assistant notarized the document with an official stamp. When it was done, Victoria handed me my copy of the contract. Congratulations, Rachel. You're now officially a represented artist. Welcome to your new life. I walked out of that gallery holding the contract against my chest like it was made of gold. Physical proof that I wasn't nothing, that I'd never been nothing. For 3 years, I'd been building something in the shadows, while my family looked right through me. Now finally it was about to step into the light, while I was building my new life 3,000 miles away. My family was discovering what my absence actually meant. I didn't witness any of this firsthand, obviously. I heard about it later, pieced together from voicemails and texts, and one very uncomfortable phone call from my father weeks later. Apparently the Hawaii trip was an absolute disaster from start to finish. Without me there to handle childcare, Amanda and Brandon couldn't enjoy a single adults-only dinner. Lucas had multiple meltdowns on the beach because nobody had remembered to pack his special toys, the things I always remembered to bring. Emma developed a severe ear infection on day 3, and nobody could find the pediatrician's emergency number, because I'd always been the one who kept track of all medical information. My mother spent most of the trip complaining that the resort staff wasn't as attentive as she'd expected. She called the front desk manager 4 times. She sent back her meals repeatedly. This isn't relaxing at all, she reportedly kept saying. Who planned this trip? Nobody could handle it. The desperate text messages started arriving on day 4 of their vacation. Rachel, where are the kids' medication records? Rachel, what's Lucas's exact bedtime routine? He absolutely won't sleep. Rachel, the hotel restaurant doesn't have a proper kids' menu. What are they supposed to eat? I didn't respond to any of them. I was too busy at a professional photography lab in Santa Barbara, reviewing print proofs, selecting frames, meeting with a journalist who wanted to interview me about my upcoming exhibition. But here's the thing about absence. It teaches people exactly what they've been taking for granted. It shows them the invisible labor they never noticed before. On day 6 of their Hawaiian vacation, Amanda did something she'd apparently never done before. She searched my name on Google. And for the first time in her life, she found something other than a completely blank page. 8 weeks later, I stood in the center of Oceanview Art Gallery and honestly couldn't believe any of it was real. 18 of my photographs hung on pristine white walls, each one printed large and professionally framed in simple black frames that made the images stand out. The gallery glowed with carefully designed lighting. A string quartet played softly in one corner, Victoria's idea, not mine. A bartender in a crisp uniform poured champagne for guests. 75 people moved through the space. Local artists I'd met through Aunt Claire's studio. Serious collectors Victoria had personally invited. A journalist from a regional arts magazine already taking detailed notes. People who had come specifically to see my work hanging on gallery walls, with actual price tags that made my head spin every time I looked at them. I wore a simple black dress, elegant but understated, nothing that screamed for attention. My hair was down for once. I'd even put on makeup, something I rarely bothered with. Aunt Claire appeared at my side, pressing a glass of champagne into my hand. Her eyes were shining with pride. How are you feeling right now? Terrified, I admitted honestly. What if nobody actually buys anything? What if this was all a mistake? Rachel, she said gently, someone already bought a piece. She nodded toward an elegantly dressed woman examining the centerpiece of my exhibition. The bus stop photograph. The elderly woman who'd been waiting. A small red sticker had appeared on the wall placard next to it, indicating it had sold. That's Mrs. Hamilton. She's one of the most respected collectors in the region. She just purchased that piece for $3,500. $3,500 for something I'd created, for a photograph I'd taken on a random afternoon while everyone in my family thought I was wasting my time. Rachel, Victoria approached with a broad, genuine smile. I want to introduce you to someone very important. This is James from Coastal Arts magazine. They're considering featuring you in next month's issue, possibly even the cover. Cover feature, magazine cover, my name, my face, my story, all in print for thousands of people to see. I was halfway through that introduction, trying to sound professional and coherent, when the gallery door opened and my entire world tilted dangerously on its axis. Amanda and Brandon walked in. Both still noticeably sunburned from Hawaii, they looked completely out of place, like they'd stumbled into the wrong event. Amanda wore a casual floral dress more suited to brunch than an art opening. Brandon had his phone out, already scrolling through emails and frowning. They both scanned the room with expressions I knew so well. That look my family always had when confronted with something outside their narrow understanding of the world. Then Amanda's eyes found me and her face transformed. Rachel, she practically shouted, rushing forward with her arms outstretched like we were having some joyful reunion. Oh my God, we've been so worried about you. We've been trying to reach you for weeks. 75 guests turned to look. The string quartet actually faltered for half a beat before recovering. Amanda, I kept my voice steady and calm. This is unexpected. I didn't know you were coming. We had to come. Her eyes were wide and earnest. We flew in yesterday. Mom found your Instagram account somehow. She's been calling everyone we know trying to track you down. You just disappeared, Rachel. You just vanished. Brandon appeared behind her, giving me this curt nod like we were business associates at a conference. Rachel, nice space you have here. Interest in it's an art gallery, I said evenly. My gallery opening actually, my solo exhibition. Amanda blinked. Finally taking in the photographs on the walls around us, really taking them in for the first time. Taking in the champagne, the guests, the price tags displayed next to each piece. You did all of this. Her voice was genuinely confused, almost disbelieving. Since when do you even do photography? Since 3 years ago, I replied. You never asked what I did with my free time. You never asked about my life at all. Aunt Claire materialized at my elbow like a guardian angel. A quiet wall of support and protection across the room. I could see Victoria watching carefully, ready to intervene if this situation escalated. Amanda leaned closer, lowering her voice to what she probably thought was a private whisper. Rachel, I have news, important news. I'm pregnant again, baby number 3. And I really need you to come home. I need help. Brandon's work is absolutely insane right now and Mom is useless with the kids. I desperately need you. There it was. Not congratulations on your exhibition, Rachel. Not I'm proud of you, not your work is beautiful. Just need, always their need, forever their need. The words hung in the air between us like poisonous smoke. I need you. I'd heard that phrase 10,000 times in my life. 10,000 times I'd dropped everything, rearranged my entire existence, made myself small enough to fit into whatever space they'd carved out for me. Amanda, I said quietly but firmly. I'm in the middle of my opening night. This is the most important professional moment of my life. I know, she said, waving her hand dismissively at my life's work like it was a cute hobby. And this is really lovely, Rachel, I mean it. But we can talk about all of this later. Right now I just need to know when you're coming home. When you're coming back to Boston where you belong. She's not coming back. Aunt Claire's voice cut through the moment like a knife. Sharp and absolute. She lives here now, Rachel. She has a life here. A career here. This is her home. Derek stepped forward, irritation flickering visibly across his face. With all due respect, Claire, this is family business. This doesn't concern you. You should stay out of it. Family business. Aunt Claire actually laughed, a short, sharp sound. You mean the family that deliberately excluded her from a vacation and called her free help in emails she wasn't supposed to see? That family business. Amanda's face went completely pale. Around us I could feel every guest in the gallery stop pretending not to listen. The journalist from the arts magazine. I noticed her pen moving rapidly across her notepad, recording every word. We didn't mean it like that, Amanda stammered, her voice rising slightly. You're taking things completely out of context. How exactly did you mean it then? This question came from Mrs. Hamilton, the collector who just spent $3,500 $500 on my photograph. She stood nearby with her champagne glass, watching the scene unfold with undisguised interest and growing disapproval. I'm sorry, Brandon said tightly, his lawyer voice coming out. Who are you exactly? This doesn't involve you. I'm someone who just paid $500 for that young woman's art. Mrs. Hamilton said coolly, gesturing toward my bus stop photograph. And I'm someone who's extremely curious why her own family seems to think she should abandon her promising career to be an unpaid babysitter. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees instantly. You could feel the judgment radiating from every guest. Amanda looked at me with desperate pleading eyes. Rachel, please. Can we talk privately, just you and me, away from all these people? We can work this out, we're family. Let me stop right here for just a second. If your family showed up at the most important night of your life, not to celebrate you, not to support you, but to drag you back to a life where you were invisible, what would you say to them? Tell me honestly in the comments. I really want to know what you'd do. And if you want to hear exactly what I said and how this story ends, make sure you're subscribed because you absolutely don't want to miss what happened next. Now let me tell you exactly what I said in that moment. I didn't retreat to a private corner. I didn't whisper. For 32 years I had made myself small. I had whispered. I had accommodated. I had disappeared whenever it was convenient for them. Not tonight, not anymore, not ever again. I stepped forward into the center of my own exhibition and spoke clearly enough for every single person in that gallery to hear. Amanda, I understand that you're pregnant. Congratulations, I mean that genuinely. But I will not be coming back to Boston to provide free childcare. I will not be putting my life on hold again. Wendy, wait. I'm not finished. My voice didn't waver even slightly. You can hire a nanny. You can hire 2 nannies. Brandon makes more than enough money at his firm. You've never had any trouble spending money before. What you cannot do is hire me, because I was never actually paid. I was taken for granted. Amanda's mouth opened then closed. No words came out. Around us I could feel the entire gallery leaning in, listening to every word. This isn't a hobby, I continued, gesturing to the walls around us, to my photographs, to my work, to my soul on display. This is my career. I've been building this for 3 years while everyone in our family assumed I had nothing important in my life. And just so we're absolutely clear, I pointed directly at the photograph Mrs. Hamilton had purchased. That piece sold tonight for $500. This exhibition has already sold 6 pieces totaling over $18,000. My work has value, real measurable value. I have value. And I will never throw it away to go back to being invisible, to being free help, to being nothing. Absolute silence, complete silence. You could have heard a pin drop on the gallery floor. Brandon coughed uncomfortably. Amanda's eyes were filling with real tears, genuine tears for maybe the first time, not the performative kind she usually deployed. Then something unexpected happened. Victoria started to clap, slow, steady applause. Aunt Claire joined immediately. Mrs. Hamilton raised her champagne glass in a silent toast of respect and solidarity. One by one, every single guest in that gallery started applauding. Applause rippled through the space like a wave. Not for my photographs this time. For me, for finally standing up, for finally standing up, for finally choosing myself. I didn't smile triumphantly, I didn't gloat, I didn't rub it in their faces. I simply looked at my sister with genuine honesty and said, I hope your pregnancy is healthy, Amanda. I truly do. I hope all 3 of your children grow up happy. But I won't be their invisible aunt anymore. I won't be the free help anymore. If you want to be part of my life going forward, it has to be different. It has to be equal. It has to be real. Then I turned and walked away, walked back into my exhibition, back into my new life. The gallery door opened again about 20 minutes later. I was deep in conversation with the magazine journalist, discussing themes in my work. When I saw them, my parents, standing in the entrance like they'd materialized from my worst nightmare. My mother wore her expensive Burberry coat, the one she saved for important occasions when she needed to impress people. My father stood slightly behind her looking uncomfortable and out of place in his blazer. They scanned the room with critical eyes until they found me. My mother walked through my gallery like she owned it, like she had every right to be there. Rachel. Her voice carried that same tone she'd used when I was 8 years old and had accidentally tracked mud on her clean floors. We need to talk right now. This has gone far enough. The journalist raised both eyebrows but said nothing. I excused myself politely and moved to intercept my parents before they could cause an even bigger scene. You came all this way, I said evenly, keeping my voice neutral. Of course we came, my mother's voice trembled with self-righteous indignation. You disappeared, Rachel. You abandoned your family when we needed you most. You left your sister struggling. And now we find you here playing artist while Amanda is pregnant and desperate for help. Megan isn't struggling, I corrected calmly. Amanda is wealthy and privileged, she's not struggling. She's slightly inconvenienced because she actually has to parent her own children. Don't be cruel, Rachel, my mother snapped. This isn't you, this isn't who we raised you to be. You're absolutely right. I took a deep breath. This isn't the me you wanted, the me you could count on to do whatever you asked without question. The me who would drop everything to make your lives easier. But that version of Rachel was never actually seen, Mom. She was just used. She was just exploited. My father cleared his throat in that uncomfortable way. Rachel, your mother is trying to say that family is important, that we need to. I know exactly what she's trying to say, Dad. I've heard it my entire life. Family comes first. Make sacrifices. Don't be selfish. Put others before yourself. I met his eyes directly. But I wasn't part of the family trip to Hawaii, remember? So which is it? Am I family or aren't I? You can't have it both ways. Neither of them had an answer to that. Neither of them could respond. My mother recovered first, her voice sharp and defensive. Hawaii was one trip, Rachel, one single trip. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. Someone had to stay with the children. Someone always has to make sacrifices. Someone, I repeated slowly. Why me? Why is it always me? Why am I always the someone who has to sacrifice? Because you have the time, my mother said. Like it was the most obvious thing in the world. You don't have a husband, you don't have children of your own, you have flexibility. What else would you be doing with your life that's more important than helping your family? I'd wondered if I would ever use those screenshots. Part of me had hoped I'd never have to, that they'd somehow apologize on their own. But standing there in my gallery surrounded by my work and my witnesses, I realized that some truths absolutely need to be spoken out loud. I pulled out my phone with steady hands. Let me read you something, I said, my voice calm and clear. This is an email you sent to Amanda 2 weeks before your anniversary party. My mother's face went completely white. All the color drained from her skin. Keep Rachel home to watch the kids. She doesn't have anything important to do anyway. It's like having free help. She should honestly be grateful we give her something useful to do with her time. The gallery had gone silent again, deadly silent. I could feel every single eye on us, on this moment, and Amanda replied. I continued reading. Totally agree, Mom. She'll probably feel useful for once. It's kind of sad, honestly, but at least it works out for us. Amanda, standing several feet away, looked like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. Rachel. My father started, his voice uncertain. How did you? It doesn't matter where I found it, Dad. What matters is that you wrote it, that you actually thought it. That this is how you really see me. I lowered my phone. I'm not reading this to embarrass anyone. I'm not trying to humiliate you. I'm reading it so you finally understand why I left. Why I had to leave. You didn't see me as family. You saw me as unpaid staff. And staff has every right to quit. My mother's mouth opened, closed, opened again. For the first time in my entire life, Catherine Carter was completely speechless. The journalist from the Arts magazine was still writing, documenting everything. It was Brandon who broke first, his corporate composure finally cracking under pressure. This is absolutely ridiculous, he snapped, stepping forward aggressively. Rachel, you're making a huge scene over nothing. So your family asked you to babysit. Big deal. That's what families do. They help each other. Not everyone gets to run off and play artist and pretend their hobby is a real career. Pretend, Mrs. Hamilton's voice cut through the room like ice, cold and sharp. I just spent $3,500 on her work. I don't spend that kind of money on pretend. I don't invest in hobbies. Brandon turned, his lawyer mask slipping. With respect, ma'am, you don't know this family. You don't understand the full situation. This is a private family matter. Actually, I know exactly what I need to know. Mrs. Hamilton set down her champagne glass deliberately. I know that young woman has spent years photographing people that society overlooks, people that most of us walk past without seeing. And I know her own family treated her exactly the same way, as invisible, as disposable. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Guests were openly staring now. No more pretending not to listen. This was the kind of attention my mother had craved her whole life, but never like this. Never with judgment, never with disapproval. My mother tried desperately to salvage the situation, to control the narrative. This is all a huge misunderstanding. Family inside jokes are being taken completely out of context. A joke, another voice spoke up. a woman in her 60s with silver hair and a kind, intelligent face. I'd sold her a photograph earlier that evening. Telling your daughter she has nothing important to do. Calling her free help, saying she should be grateful. What exactly is funny about any of that? More murmurs. More visible judgment. The social capital my mother had spent 40 years carefully accumulating was evaporating in real time, crumbling right in front of her eyes. I think, Aunt Claire said gently but firmly, it might be time for all of you to leave. You're disrupting Rachel's event. This is her night, you need to go now. My mother's face flushed bright scarlet with embarrassment and rage. My father took her arm, trying to guide her toward the exit. Amanda was crying now. Real humiliated tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup. Brandon stood frozen, finally understanding that his courtroom tactics meant absolutely nothing here. Rachel, my mother said, her voice actually shaking, you're going to regret this. You're going to regret turning your back on your family. No, I said quietly. So quietly she had to strain to hear me. I really won't. I don't think I'll regret this at all. My mother left first. She turned on her heel without another word, pulling my father behind her like luggage. The gallery door closed with a soft click that somehow echoed louder than any slam could have. Amanda lingered for a moment, mascara smudged, arms wrapped around herself like a child who'd been caught doing something wrong. Rachel, her voice cracked completely. I didn't know you felt this way. I honestly thought you liked helping us. I thought you wanted to be involved. No, Amanda, I said, not unkindly, not cruelly, just honestly you didn't think about it at all. None of you ever thought about it. You just assumed and took and expected. Brandon put a hand on Amanda's shoulder. For once he said absolutely nothing. Maybe he'd finally run out of arguments. Maybe he'd finally realized he couldn't win this. I hope your pregnancy is healthy, I added. I genuinely hope your kids grow up happy and loved. But I won't be their invisible aunt anymore. If you want to be in my life, it has to be different. It has to be equal. It has to be real. Do you understand that? Amanda nodded, tears still streaming. I understand. I wasn't sure she really did. I wasn't sure any of them could truly understand. But it wasn't my job to make them understand anymore. It wasn't my responsibility to teach them how to see me. They left through the same door our parents had used. The gallery let out this collective breath, like everyone had been holding their breath through the entire confrontation. Aunt Claire appeared beside me, wrapping her arm around my shoulders. Are you okay, sweetie? I think so. I let out a shaky laugh. I just told off my entire family in public at my own art exhibition. You did, she said with pride in her voice. And you were absolutely magnificent. You were brave and honest and strong. Victoria approached, pressing a fresh glass of champagne into my trembling hand. For what it's worth, she said with a genuine smile, I've been running this gallery for 23 years. I have never seen an opening night quite like this one. Never. Is that good or bad? I asked. Still slightly in shock. Let's just say, she replied. Everyone here is going to remember your name, Rachel Carter. And that is exactly what an emerging artist needs. People remember moments like this. They remember authenticity and courage. I looked around at my photographs hanging on those pristine white walls, at my gallery, at my new life that I'd built from nothing. At Aunt Claire standing proudly beside me, at Victoria who believed in my work, at the guests who'd witnessed me finally standing up for myself. For once in my entire life I didn't feel invisible. For once I felt completely seen. By the time the gallery closed that night I had sold 11 of my 18 photographs. 11 pieces representing 3 years of secret work, $23,000 in total sales. $13,800 would come to me, 60%. Exactly like the contract promised. Victoria handed me the printed summary of the evening's transactions as the last guests filtered out into the night. Not bad for an opening night, she said with obvious satisfaction, especially one with that much unexpected family drama. Honestly, that kind of authentic emotion, that kind of real human conflict, it makes the art more meaningful. It gives it context. I stared at the numbers on the page. $13,800. More than I'd made in 6 months of bookkeeping work. More money than I'd ever earned from my own work in my entire life. Mrs. Hamilton wants to commission a custom piece. Victoria continued. She has a vacation home up the coast. She wants you to photograph the coastline there. Create something specifically for her space. That's how private collectors work. They see your vision and they want more of it. She handed me an elegant business card. Her assistant's contact information. Call them next week to set something up. I tucked the card carefully into my purse next to my copy of the gallery contract, next to the magazine interview notes, Next to all the physical proof that this was real, Victoria added almost casually, "Oh, and James said he has more than enough material for a feature article. They're seriously considering you for next month's cover." The cover. The actual cover of a regional arts magazine with my name and face and story. Aunt Claire helped me carefully pack the 7 unsold photographs that night, carrying them back to my room above her studio. 7 pieces still waiting for the right buyers. But 11 had sold. 11 meant people had seen real value in what I'd created, seen beauty in my vision of invisible souls. I set the sales check on my desk, the first substantial check I'd ever received for my art, and I photographed it. Not to post anywhere, not to brag, just to remember this moment forever, payable to Rachel Carter. $13,800. Physical, tangible proof that I wasn't nothing. That I'd never been nothing at all. 3 months later, my new life had found its rhythm, its pattern, its beautiful, sustainable routine. I woke at 5 every morning, watched the sun rise over the Pacific from my window, turning the ocean shades of gold and pink, opened Aunt Claire's cafe by 6. I worked the morning shift until noon, pouring carefully crafted coffee, chatting with regulars who now knew me by name, locals who recognized me as Claire's niece, the photographer whose work had caused such a stir. Afternoons belonged entirely to my work. I'd rented a small studio space 4 blocks from the cafe, just big enough for my editing equipment, my printing station, my growing collection of camera gear, my sanctuary. The gallery exhibition had closed after its 6-week run, but Victoria had already scheduled another show for spring, this time a new series I was calling Thresholds. Photographs of doorways, boundaries, edges, the liminal spaces between belonging and leaving, between family and freedom, between obligation and choice. It felt incredibly right. The magazine article came out in November, my face on the actual cover of Coastal Arts Review, next to the headline, "The Artist Who Learned to See Herself." The article told my story, edited for length obviously, with some names changed to protect both the innocent and the guilty. But the essential truth was there, the invisibility. The breaking point, the choice to walk away, the courage to choose yourself. People reached out after reading it, dozens of messages. Women who'd been the family helper. The reliable one, the invisible one everyone forgot to thank or notice or value. Their messages filled my inbox like a chorus of recognition and solidarity. I thought I was the only one. "You gave me permission to leave my toxic family. Thank you for showing me it's possible to choose yourself." My own family reached out too, eventually. Inevitably, Amanda texted after her baby was born. A girl named Charlotte, she sent a single photo. I sent congratulations and a gift card to a baby store, nothing more. Nothing deeper, civil but distant. My mother called once, just once. I didn't answer, I let it go to voicemail. She left a message asking if I'd gotten this rebellious phase out of my system yet, if I was ready to come home and be part of the family again. I deleted it without responding. But my father genuinely surprised me. His email arrived on a Tuesday evening, 3 sentences long, simple and direct. "Rachel, I saw the magazine article. I'm proud of you, love, Dad." That one I kept. I saved it in a special folder, printed it out and put it in a frame on my desk. Not because it erased everything that happened, but because it was a start, a tiny beginning of acknowledgement. Today I'm sitting in my studio looking out at the Pacific. The Canon camera I bought from that pawn shop 3 years ago still sits on my shelf, older now, more worn, but still working perfectly. Next to it sits a newer professional model, one I purchased with money I earned from selling my art. Both cameras matter equally. One reminded me to start seeing the invisible. The other proves that people finally saw me back. My second exhibition opens next month. Thresholds, 18 new photographs, each one exploring the edges of connection. Where family ends and self begins, where obligation crosses the line into exploitation, where love becomes something else entirely, something toxic. I think it might be my best work yet, my most honest work. Aunt Claire stops by every single morning with coffee and commentary on life. Victoria checks in weekly with updates about collectors, opportunities, upcoming shows, potential commissions. The cafe regulars have started requesting what they call the photographer's table, the window seat where I sometimes edit photos between serving customers, where the light is perfect in the afternoons. I'm not rich, I'm not famous, I'll probably never be either of those things. But I'm seen, I'm valued, I'm respected for my work and my vision, and that is enough, that is more than enough, that is everything. As for my family, we exist in a new configuration now, a different structure, Christmas cards, brief birthday texts, occasional updates about the children, civil, distant, healthier than before, infinitely healthier. I haven't been back to Boston, not once. Maybe someday I will, maybe eventually, but only as a visitor, only on my terms, never as the help, never as the invisible one again. The other day I was going through old files on my laptop and found a photograph I'd taken years ago. A self-portrait shot in the mirror of my Boston apartment, back when I was still living that old life, still being invisible. The woman in that photograph looked exhausted, defeated, hollow, like she was waiting for permission to exist, like she was apologizing for taking up space in the world. I deleted it. That woman is gone now. She doesn't exist anymore. In her place is someone who takes up space unapologetically, who creates beautiful, meaningful things, who says no when she means no and yes only when she genuinely chooses to say yes. Someone who finally learned to see herself the way she'd been seeing others all along. With empathy, with value, with worth. That's the real story. Not revenge, not triumph over enemies, not dramatic vindication, just freedom, just choice. Just finally choosing yourself after a lifetime of choosing everyone else. From a psychological perspective, my story illustrates something called parentification. When a child, often the oldest, takes on adult responsibilities without recognition or reciprocity. I also occupied what therapists call the scapegoat role. The family member whose needs are consistently deprioritized, whose feelings don't matter, while a golden child, in this case Amanda, receives endless attention and resources and validation. These are real recognized patterns. They happen in families everywhere, more often than you might think. Here's what I want you to take away from my story. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal, it's not abandonment, it's not selfish. It's the recognition that you cannot pour from an empty cup, you cannot give what you don't have, and the people who truly love you, who genuinely value you, won't ask you to destroy yourself for their convenience. If you're in a situation like mine, if you're the invisible one in your family, remember this: your worth isn't measured by how useful you are to other people. Your value isn't determined by how much you sacrifice. It's inherent. It was always there. It was there before they started using you, and it will be there after you walk away. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't fighting back, isn't arguing, isn't trying to make them understand. Sometimes the bravest thing is simply walking away, building something of your own, creating a life that reflects who you really are, letting your existence speak louder than any argument ever could. You deserve that. I deserved it. We all deserve it. Every single person listening to this story deserves to be seen, to be valued, to matter, not because of what they do for others, but simply because they exist, because they're human, because their dreams and hopes and passions have worth. So if you're that invisible person right now, if you're reading this and seeing yourself in my story, I want you to know something. You can leave, you can choose yourself, you can build something beautiful. It won't be easy, it might be the hardest thing you ever do. Your family might not understand, they might never understand, they might try to guilt you, manipulate you, make you feel selfish for wanting to be seen. But on the other side of that fear, on the other side of that guilt, there's a life waiting for you. A life where you matter, where you're seen, where you finally get to be yourself. And that life, that freedom, that choice, it's worth every uncomfortable conversation, every burned bridge, every moment of doubt, because you deserve to be more than invisible. You deserve to be extraordinary. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, if it mattered to you, please hit that like button, leave a comment telling me your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss future stories. Remember, you are seen, you matter, you are enough, exactly as you are.